Before we glue our tail piece on, we want to do a little sanding to sand some areas that are difficult to reach once it is glued in place. Like the inside curve of this tail piece will have some machine marks, so we want to sand those out, make it look nice and professional. It's best to do that before we glue it in place. And also, when this is glued onto the top, it's difficult to sand in this area here, so it's best to sand at least this area, if not the whole soundboard, before we glue this piece in place. So you'll want to just use a little 180 sandpaper to sand right here, and it's a good idea to take a block of wood, a square block of wood, so that you're not sanding in little dips with your hand or contours. This will keep it nice and flat. So you just go ahead and do this a little bit more until you're satisfied with the feel of that area there. Now, a couple tips about sanding in here. We use a spindle sander here at the shop. It's real easy to get in there like that, but if you don't have one of these at home, there's a couple other things you can use. You can take a dowel. Now this dowel we've glued some leather around it. It's a little extra padding. You don't need to glue the leather around it, but if you want to, and you can just wrap this around the dowel, and this will give you a little more leverage as you get in there to sand. Some other ideas that you might consider would be, well, if you bought our finishing kit, this also makes a handy little sander. You can wrap your sandpaper around that and do that. That'll help speed things along. Another idea might be, you might have a can of spray paint sitting around, or maybe even an old soup can, something like that. Just wrap your sandpaper around it, and you'll want to sand in this area until all those marks are gone. Then you can go ahead and glue that onto here, which will be our next step. I also want to quickly mention that this plug that we put in where that screw went, we want to sand that down flush. It's best to sand that down before you glue the snail on here. Just easiest to do it before that's done. So go ahead and do your sanding, and then we'll glue on the tail piece and the snail.